With me today is Dr Jemma King, and Jemma is a behavioural scientist, sleep researcher and performance expert who has spent years helping elite performers optimise recovery, decision-making and resilience under pressure. A research fellow at the University of Queensland and specialist external advisor to McKinsey and Company, she has worked with organisations including Google, the Australian Defence Force, Special Operations Command, the Australian Olympic Swim Team, and the Australian Institute of Sport. Her first book, Sleep First, translates the science of sleep into practical strategies that actually work for leaders, high performers, and anyone who has normalized running on empty. So welcome, Jemma.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So I know that our chat is going to resonate with so many people, and congratulations on your book. It is like
Thank you.
The encyclopedia for sleep.
Yes, it is. And I think I've got a captured audience because everybody sleeps, well, hopefully, every night.
yeah, hopefully. So let's jump into it. So many leaders wear sleep deprivation like a badge of honor. You know, early starts, late finishes, grinding it out. Very, very heavily linked to success. But what's actually happening in their brain and body when they do that? And why is that ownership so dangerous?
Yeah, it is an absolute misconception that you can operate for long periods of time with no sleep. And, you know, I we were talking before, I was one of those people, sleep when you're dead. And so many people would be like, it's a, you know, like an absolute badge of honor. I'm so tough. I'm so smart, capable. But when you look at sleep deprivation, it's like you're drunk. And when I was working with the Australian Special Forces, when they were educated on this sleep science, they all started thinking, oh my God, their job is very, very dangerous. Even in training. So they were thinking, I don't want to be that guy that could potentially, you know, mess up, do something wrong and put someone's life at jeopardy. So they started really changing their tune. They would come in, we put them on the Whoop devices, and they would come in and they were started to have competitions on who could get the most REM sleep and who could get the most slow wave sleep. And it was a real cultural change. But for those leaders and those people in business who think that, you know, it's okay to be sleep deprived, the science says otherwise. Cognitively, if you have 6 hours a night of sleep for 2 weeks, it's like you've had 48 hours of no sleep altogether. And so your cognitive processing, your decision making, your risk assessment, your, you know, perception of what's a good idea and not a good idea, your ability to hold multiple different variables at the same time, all becomes suboptimal. And you know, you actually aren't making good decisions with, you know, you become myopic, you become reactive, you become more attuned to negativity, you are a lot less innovative. And also, I always say, don't let anyone give you a performance review if they're sleep deprived, because there was a study and they looked at sleep deprived leaders and they said, think of all the positive attributes or the negative attributes of that person. And when they were sleep deprived, they could think of 81% more negative attributes than positive ones. And they were 33% less empathetic. And so there you go. And we did a big study. We did a big study with McKinsey executive leadership program and CEOs, and we put these devices, Whoop devices on them. And then we asked their subordinates of these leaders, we said, how much psychological safety did you feel in the last meeting? How safe, how much did you feel like you could speak up? How much did you feel trust? And those leaders who were sleep deprived, their subordinates rated them very low. So a lot of leaders think, no one will know if I stay up late. You know, I'm cutting from my own, you know, book, when actually there is something that is transmitted and people just didn't trust the boss or didn't feel like they could speak up if the boss was sleep deprived. And they didn't know what the boss was doing the night before, but there's something there, their voice, their vocal intonation, they were a bit short, something was transmitted. And yeah, so you don't have a psychologically safe team if you are sleep deprived as a boss.
Wow. That's so interesting. And it makes complete sense to me because just like from my experience, when I'm tired, my patience is not Great. So people do annoy me so much more when I'm tired. And of course, that translates into how you speak to people, how you interact with the team. So,
You
yeah,
produce more cortisol when you're sleep deprived because, if you think about why humans stayed up at night and were running around with light in their eyes, it usually meant there was something happening, something, significant, and that would make you produce stress hormones. And
yeah,
then so the next morning you still have high levels of cortisol because you don't have as much resources. And so there's a lot of studies they look at when you're producing cortisol, and there's those behavioural economics trust games. People are less likely to trust you. They're less likely to want to share with you when they can detect your cortisol, the stress hormone, and vice versa. When you're sleep deprived, you're a lot less generous, and you see negativity on faces where it doesn't exist. So if you show people blank faces and say, what emotion is this person displaying? Is it suspicion? Is it negativity? Is it desire? Is it happiness? People, if they're sleep deprived, will always say, that person's giving me a dirty look. And the face is ambivalent. So you see the world differently when you're sleep deprived. So hopefully we're kind of convincing people to get more sleep,
to
because
get more sleep, to be a
I
better
was,
leader.
yeah. So I was primarily a stress researcher. So I did all my research looking at cortisol and stress, and I just saw something really fascinating in the data that every single person who I met who had a sleep disorder would eventually succumb to have a mental health disorder. And every single person I saw with a mental health disorder invariably had a sleep disorder. So I was like, there is something in this. And so then I got really deep into the research around sleep. And now I travel a lot, but I try to be really strict. And what you see is there's this second, third order effect, that you eat better. You feel like choosing the healthy foods, because when you're sleep deprived, you crave salty, fatty, sugary foods. You feel like going to the gym. You feel like being nice to people. Like
Yeah.
things just get easier if you just sleep.
Yeah, I totally agree. That should be the title of our podcast. Things just get easier when you sleep. I love that.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I love reading in your book is about the 3 a.m. wake up. And I always thought it was your liver because that's what everyone sort of said, that your liver detoxes around that time. And, it is a time that so many people wake up, the 2, the 3, and the spiral starts, the mental to-do list kicks in, and then you can't get back to sleep again. So can you share what the science is behind that? And is it the sleep that's broken, or is this something else that's showing up?
There's many hypotheses as to why we wake up at 3, or some people it's 2, some people it's 3, and it's
Yeah.
like every night. So your liver actually does detoxes all throughout the day. And so, like when you look at physiology, there isn't that just liver window. I mean, as I said in the book, I'm not discounting thousands of years of Chinese medicine, because I do believe there's some really amazing stuff in Chinese medicine. But so what happens is, if you got your sleep architecture, you've got 90-minute cycles, and you've got 4 stages. You up, awake, and then you go right down into deep slow wave sleep. So you get predominantly more deep slow wave sleep at the start of the night, and then REM sleep starts to kick in around 2 a.m. depending on when you go to sleep. And so REM sleep is when you are consolidating your memories, you're making sense of the day. There's also, a forgetting function, and there's also fear processing. So I like to use the analogy of the midnight librarian. So you've got this librarian with a bench, and all of the folders come in throughout the day of, what happened in memories. And the librarian looks, oh, that goes in that box with that memory, that goes there. That one don't need that, it's irrelevant, chuck it out. Oh, that one, I don't know what to do with it. And so the librarian might wake you up because it's a very emotionally evocative memory. And they say, this one needs executive counsel. And so they'll, I need to wake up the boss. So if you have unresolved emotional issues, this is when your midnight librarian will say, wake up. And that's when you wake up and you get that kind of like busy mind, and then you'll produce, stress hormones. And so it's very hard to get back to sleep if you kind of grab onto this stress from trying to process those memories. There's also, and so what you can do about that is you can give your midnight librarian a little bit of help before you go to bed, brain dump or name to tame. So you say, these are all the things that are concerning me. I'm going to think about this in my worry hour at 11 o'clock the next day. And so you say, basically, you list all the things and you say, I'm going to call the accountant at 11. I'm going to call, Sam's school at 11:30. I'm going to call, like, you actually put a time next to the thing that's worrying you on when you're going to sort it out. And so this really placates the midnight librarian thinking, okay, this will be sorted out in the worry hour the next day. Or also what you can do is you can just sort of label the folders for the midnight librarian. You can say, this has been concerning me. This will go in family folder. This will go in this folder. This is not important, but, just make a list of the types of thoughts that are in your mind and just help that librarian. But there's also other reasons. There is a gut biome theory that if you're eating sugary snacks before bed, that you will feed your gut biome. We've got huge amounts of gut biome, about 1.5 to 2 kilograms in our digestive tract. And these little bugs, they love eating sugar, and then they will proliferate and they will have babies, and they'll go looking for more sugar, and they will send out bioidentical hormones to your brain that make you hungry. So some people wake up because they feel hungry. Another thing is that around 2 or 3, your body temperature drops, and sometimes you just get cold and then you wake up. And so there's some reasons. There's also the bimodal sleep theory or the sentinel theory. So in the olden days, there is that the theory that we would go to sleep in 2 blocks. So we'd go to sleep when the sun went down, and we'd sleep for a first block. Would wake up in the middle of the night around 2 or 3. Would go, do things like the fire, knit, talk, write in our diary, whittle sticks, have sex, and then we'd have a second sleep. So that could be hitting that middle of that night. Or there's the sentinel sleep where, in hunter-gatherer societies, there was about 30% of the clan would always be awake to, look for predators or keep the fire going. So that could be another reason. So there's lots of reasons.
Lots of reasons. I love taming the librarian though. I think that's such a really great and practical tip that people can do like today. I'm a massive fan of writing my to-do list, like just getting it out of my head and onto paper at the end of the day, like before I go, finish work, because I just feel like, okay, well, I know what's happening tomorrow now. You feel more in control. So yeah, it's very related.
Excellent idea.
Yeah. So is there a gender dimension to sleep deprivation? Like, is it sometimes I think men sleep so much better and easier than women do, potentially because of the load that women have. Is there anything to that?
Yes, there is some conjecture about whether or not women need more sleep, or we just have more opportunity for our sleep to get disrupted.
Yeah.
So that we sleep, they say we need about, 12 minutes a night more than men. But I just think that because of hormones, caring, maybe breastfeeding, child rearing, we are probably woken up a lot more. We have a higher, so if you've had a child, you've got a higher threshold, lower threshold of where you get woken up by noise. And especially, during certain times of the month or perimenopause, menopause, we have a lot of disrupted sleep. So yes, we do need more sleep. We don't know whether it's because we actually physiologically need more sleep, or we just have more chances to be woken, or more expectation that we will get up and do something about the kid, or old elderly parents, or let the dog out or something.
Yeah, seems to be the task of the woman.
Yes.
You said before about
eating
better, and you write about
chrono diet.
Yeah, but like the caffeine, the late meals and the screens, things we know, but we keep doing. So what's going on for people? So many people say to me that having a coffee at night does not affect my sleep. What is the science saying about that?
Yeah, I always say, like, people say, I still sleep like a baby when I have
Yeah.
5 coffees. And I'm like, sleep like a baby, like wake up crying and wriggly and, and multiple times a night. No, so now that there's much greater use of biometric capture devices or, wearables or sleep trackers, we know that we can see what's happening in the brain and the body. And there's a disconnect between what people feel and what's actually physiologically happening. And so, there's been multiple studies looking at if you have caffeine, even 8 hours, even 12 hours before you go to bed. So if you have over 400 milligrams, which is about 4 or 5 cups, you will have over an hour less sleep than someone who doesn't drink that much coffee. And what we see is that there is micro arousal. So they are waking up, but they maybe don't have conscious awareness of it. So their sleep is disrupted because what people don't realize is, caffeine, people think caffeine gives you energy. It does not. It blocks the sleepy signal. So caffeine blocks the sleepy signal. It does not give you energy. So you've got these receptors in your brain, and caffeine sort of sits on it and blocks adenosine, which is this Mother Nature's sleepy potion. And then once the caffeine wears off, you get really hit with that adenosine, that sleepy signal. But so if you do want to drink caffeine, the rule of thumb is the minute you wake up and get light into your eyeballs, this will hit your retinas and send a message to your circadian rhythm of when you should wake up and then also when you should get natural sleep pressure. So natural sleep pressure happens around 16 hours after your first light exposure. So you need to get ready to be getting into bed and going down with that sleep pressure. And then what you do is you then count back 6 hours from that time, and that should be your last caffeine. If you're a little bit more sensitive, push it to 8 hours. And then you just should avoid it. And so caffeine's in lots of things. It's in chocolate, it's in energy drinks. Energy drinks are terrible, by the way, for sleep. And it raises your blood pressure and heart rate by for 12 hours. One can.
Wow.
So if you want to really sleep well, just I say rule of thumb, never after 3 p.m. and maybe just have one, max 2. Because it depends on your genetics and also your physiology. If you have liver issues, if people are on the pill, if you're pregnant, like your ability to metabolize caffeine changes. Some are fast metabolizers, some are slow metabolizers. And you can kind of tell if you have a coffee and you get a little bit shaky, you should not be having caffeine after lunchtime.
Yeah. Love it. And so you were going to talk about a diet before, because I love that you've got in your book that you do share ideas for diet. People eating late is not good for sleep, is it either?
It's terrible. So my PhD student did her study on time restricted eating, and she found that if people had their last meal when the sun went down, all of their metrics, their heart rate variability, their resting heart rate, their respiration rate, their sleep quality, sleep duration, all improved dramatically. So that's really hard for people. She actually said those that had 3 p.m. finish was even better. But like, who's going to do that, right? No one. Yeah. I love drinking wine, and I would eat, meat. I'd eat a steak for dinner. And because I track my sleep and have for many years now, I'm like, oh my God, it's terrible. So your body does not like a big chunk of decomposing flesh in your stomach. That will actually mess with your deep slow wave sleep. It wants to get rid of that, right? And so it'll do that over putting you into deep sleep. And so if you do eat meat, have a big protein lunch and have vegetarian at night, and you will see a huge difference. And also people who ate sugar before bed slept on average 26 minutes less than people who didn't have sugary snacks. So there's a whole lot of things to improve your your sleep chemistry. So eat resistant starch, vegetables, because they create something called butyrate, which helps you sleep.
Yep.
I'd avoid MSG, monosodium glutamate. Glutamate's a neurotransmitter. It gives you that busy mind, and you can have terrible nightmares and wake up kind of feeling like fried and thirsty. So monosodium glutamate or flavor enhancers is in all packaged food. It's in all takeaway, most restaurant food as well, not just Asian food. So that is a big one. Like, you just have terrible sleeps. But yeah, try and have, no food 3 hours before bed. And if you are going to have something before a snack, try to make sure it's got tryptophan in it. So tryptophan is a precursor to melatonin, and it's found in things like walnuts and tart cherries and cottage cheese and seeds. So yeah, there's some things, hot, warm milk, but try to avoid anything with sugar.
Yep. That makes so much sense. And I had heard about the cherry bizzo that
Yeah.
helped you sleep. I love cherries. So it was a
Yeah,
good thing.
kiwi fruits as well. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Okay. So, Gemma, what are like some of the common things that people think will fix their sleep that actually makes it worse?
A nightcap, alcohol. It sedates you. It doesn't put you into sleep. And it's terrible for your REM sleep. So, if you don't process those thoughts and emotions and memories from the day, you can wake up feeling very anxious. So alcohol gives you anxiety because you didn't actually get to file away all those stupid things you said the night before.
Yeah.
So alcohol is very bad. If you do want to drink, try and maybe day drink or or just like keep it away 3 hours before bed. Reading in bed, reading in bed's good. TV in bed is not good. Doom scrolling on your phone is not good. You've got to keep your, sleep sanctuary for sleep. And another thing that people think is, as long as I get 8 hours, it's okay, no matter when those 8 hours occur, which is really not true. So what we see is that, and if people remember anything from this talk, this is literally what I think you should remember, is that there is a window of opportunity before midnight, in the 2 hours before midnight, where all these really important processes happen. You produce 70 to 80% of your human growth hormone, which is incredibly important for repair, replenishment. And there's that window that if you miss that, you never get that magnitude of human growth hormone. You might get like little pulsatile bursts of it in the next 24 hours, but you'll never get that big shot of human growth hormone, which we need to repair our bodies and, clean our brains and, make sure that we're good to go the next day. And so what we see is that people will go, I'll go to bed at midnight, but I'll wake up a lot later. And they wake up feeling terrible because they haven't cleaned their brain. You've got all this build-up of beta amyloids and taus and sticky plaques that get built up throughout the day. You get cellular exhaust, which that is adenosine. And the most productive cleaning time for your brain is 2 hours before midnight. And so it's highly correlated with, dementia, depression, anxiety, inability to regulate your weight, inability to heal, your immune system's suboptimal. So if you hear nothing, just hear this, go to bed, be asleep by 10, and your whole life will change. And if you've got work to do, if you've got important things to do, get up at 4 in the morning. Your brain's cleaned, you're much more efficient, you've got, so much more capacity. Because every minute you get to midnight, I call it the pumpkin effect. There's the law of diminishing marginal returns. Your efficiency to, detect errors or you make errors is increased. You become slower. You're just not as efficient. And so if you're working, you're actually just not as good as if you would be at 4 in the morning when you've cleaned your brain and you've replenished your brain energy.
I love that so much. I have heard the better quality sleep you get is before 12. I didn't know why. And that makes so much sense. So telling people to get to bed by 10, is going to, like you said, change their life. And I was going to ask you, like, tell us something, like a last thing that you could give to every leader listening
That
for
is
them to
it.
do tonight. That is it.
Yeah. Because, you just wait. Like I would always go to bed late. And so, I know what it feels like. I have 3 kids. I
Yeah.
worked really hard. I was studying. And then just those moments, 10:30, 11, 11:30, 12. It's just like, it's just my time. It's just like the
Yeah.
only time I've got to myself.
Yeah.
And, you call it revenge bedtime procrastination, like where you just go, just one more Netflix show, just one more doom scroll, just one more something. And actually you're doing yourself a huge disservice
Mm.
because even though it's your time, it's not quality time. And there are huge second and third order effects that will make tomorrow harder. You're literally stealing from tomorrow to make today better. And you're not. But if you wake up and for 4 in the morning and the world is quiet, you actually feel refreshed. Your brain doesn't feel grindy. You just feel like that's a special time. That can be your special me time.
Mm.
And the day flows so much better.
Mm. Oh, Gemma, so good. I could speak to you like for days on this. But what I love in your book is where you have the audit at the start where you can really understand yourself. And then throughout the book, you encourage people to build systems for them that are going to work
Yeah.
for them. So I highly encourage people to grab a copy of your book. And you share so much about, you mentioned before, like menopause and pregnancy and perimenopause, and even some of the better supplements that you can take to help your sleep.
Yeah.
It's
Like magnesium glycinate really works. If you're going to, I think a lot of them, there's a lot of, I don't know, gypsy tears and snake oil out there. Like, to have this melatonin gummies, like for one, I would not take those and I would not give them to children. Like
yeah,
there is it's quite dangerous because, either you're paying for nothing or some of these things, gummies off the internet have like 400 times what they claim to. So people are messing with their hormonal systems in ways they have no idea. We don't even know the consequences. Melatonin does a lot of different things. And if you're taking it exogenously, your body won't make it itself because it's like, I'm getting it for free. So you're really messing with some systems there. So only take melatonin if your doctor gives it to you. And I would have washout periods and be very careful with that. So, but I think that, with a lot of the supplements, they do work if we live in a very calm and non-chemical environment. But we are under so much pressure from all the chemicals we get exposed to. And so our systems are very, very like chocked up. And so if you're trying to put natural sleep supplements on top of that, it's very hard for them to work, especially when we're full of adrenaline, full of cortisol, full of caffeine, full of, lots of things.
yeah.
So yeah, they do work ideally, but not with everyone's physiology when we're so jacked up. But yeah, magnesium glycinate is a good, very innocuous. It's not dangerous, and it's got so many other things that magnesium does. It's used in over 600 metabolic processes in your body, so it's a good one. Give it to your parents as well, because their ability to derive it from foods gets more difficult as the older people get.
Yes, absolutely. So, if there was a final word that you would like to leave our listeners with, Gemma, what would that be?
It would be sleep first.
Yeah.
Just understand that if you are feeling depressed, anxious, you feel like you can't manage your weight, you feel like your brain's a bit scatty, you feel like your memory's not as good, you feel like you've got, I don't know, just like niggly little issues, you're getting sick often, really look at, are you getting that deep, slow wave sleep, that quality replenishing sleep in the 2 hours before midnight? And just spend 2 weeks doing that. And then think about, am I really depressed? Am I still anxious? Do I still have a significant medical issue? Am I a person who can't lose weight or put on weight? Just do that first and then see. And I guarantee that you will be pleasantly surprised at just how many things sleep fixes. And I think like our grandparents would be rolling in their graves going, oh my God, look at this. Like, I can't believe someone's going to write a book about this. Like, just go to bed.
Totally. I love it. I'll be sharing all the links in terms of how people can get in contact with you and purchase your book in the show notes. And thank you so much for being part of Leading You today, Jemma. I've loved our chat.
Thank you for having me. Have a wonderful sleep tonight.
I will. Thank you.
You.